I came to Mexico City expecting noise, the kind that never sleeps, the hum of millions tangled in rhythm. But what I found was a heartbeat, a pulse beneath the stone. They say this city was built twice, once by gods and once by men. And somewhere between the two, time forgot to move forward. In the early morning, mist curls over the Zocalo, bells echo from cathedrals older than memory. Street vendors unfold their world's color, spice, and song rising with the sun. The air here tastes of centuries, Aztec incense, colonial dust, and the warmth of roasted corn. Every corner whispers a story, every shadow holds a ghost. And as I walk through these streets, where temples lie beneath subways, where skyscrapers share the sky with ancient gods, I realize this is not a city that lives in history. It is history, breathing, changing, alive. Mexico City, the soul of time itself. Beneath the concrete and chaos of today's Mexico City lies another world. One carved in stone, painted in myth, and guarded by time. Long before tourists arrived with cameras and curiosity, pilgrims came here not to see, but to worship. They called it Tenochtitlán, the city built where an eagle devoured a serpent on a cactus. Imagine it, a floating metropolis shimmering atop a vast lake. Temples piercing the clouds, canals alive with painted canoes. The Aztecs didn't build a city, they built a vision of the heavens. And when the first outsiders arrived, Spanish conquistadors, missionaries, chroniclers, they were struck silent. For centuries, their words would become the earliest travel diaries. Stories of golden temples, of rituals and power, of a civilization that seemed too divine to be real. This is where tourism was born, in awe, in the irresistible pull of the unknown. From gods to empires, from pilgrims to explorers, Mexico City's magnetism began not in its markets or its food, but in its mystery. Even now, as modern travelers wander the ruins of the Templo Mayor, they walk in the footsteps of the first visitors, drawn by wonder, held by the heartbeat of something eternal. When the dust of conquest settled, silence followed. Temples turned to rubble, gods to whispers. Yet, even in ruin, Mexico City refused to disappear. From across the oceans, new eyes began to turn toward her. Explorers, chroniclers, and scholars carrying ink instead of swords. They came not for gold, but for meaning. In the 16th and 17th centuries, friars and philosophers wandered her streets, sketching the faces of the people, recording the ruins of a vanished world. Their journals, filled with awe and sorrow, were the first travel guides of the New World. By the 1800s, artists and adventurers followed. Painters like Frederick Catherwood and Jean Frederick Waldeck journeyed deep into the Mexican valleys, capturing temples, pyramids, and markets in watercolor and ink. They carried home visions of a city unlike any other, a place where European grace met ancient grandeur. Steamships brought more travelers, drawn by whispers of color and chaos, of churches built atop temples, of songs that blended Latin and Nahuatl. To visit Mexico City became to glimpse eternity, an empire's bones beneath a living heart. And so the age of conquest gave way to the age of curiosity. The first postcards of wonder were written in ink and memory, and the soul of Mexico began its long journey from myth to destination. They called her La Ciudad de los Palacios, the city of palaces. In the 19th century, as railroads began to pierce the valleys and steel met stone, Mexico City opened her gates to the world. Trains carried travelers, merchants, and dreamers from faraway lands, their faces pressed against the glass as domes, boulevards, and fountains appeared like mirages. This was no longer the city of conquest or curiosity. It was a stage of elegance and rebirth. Under the rule of Porfirio Diaz, the city blossomed into a vision of European grandeur. Wide Parisian avenues, grand hotels, gas lamps that turned the night into gold. De Gran Hotel Ciudad de México, de Palacio de Bellas Artes, the Castle of Chapultepec, each one a love letter written in marble and light. And with the invention of the camera, the city finally had a mirror, a way to see herself as the world did, radiant, timeless, eternal. By the early 20th century, postcards of Mexico City traveled farther than any conquistador. Photographers and filmmakers arrived, enchanted by its chaos and charm, its music, its color, its contradictions. The world began to fall in love. Travelers spoke of its poetry, artists of its soul, and those who came rarely left unchanged. The city of palaces was no longer a secret. It had become a promise. Cities are fragile things, built by hands, broken by history. But some cities refuse to die. In 1910, Mexico City trembled under revolution. The air filled with smoke and slogans. The streets echoed with the footsteps of change. Yet, even as empires fell and presidents fled, the spirit of the city, that heartbeat of creation, kept on beating. Painters turned struggle into color. Poets turned sorrow into song. In the 1920s and 30s, Frida Kahlo and Diego Rivera transformed walls into worlds. Murals that told the stories of the people, where gods and workers stood side by side. For the first time, travelers came not for monuments, but for meaning. Mexico City became a living canvas, a place where art was not confined to galleries, but spilled into streets, schools, and markets. And then came the lights of cinema. The golden age of Mexican film turned the city into a stage, its streets into legends, its people into stars. Tourists watched from abroad, mesmerized by a city that burned, rebuilt, and danced again. By the 1950s, the scars of revolution had become stories. Hotels filled with writers, photographers, wanderers, all searching for that same thing. The rhythm of a city that never truly slept. Because Mexico City has never been just a place to visit. It's a place to feel, to be changed by. The dust of revolution had barely settled when Mexico City looked to the horizon, not with fear, but with fire. The mid-20th century arrived like a sunrise, spilling light over boulevards lined with ambition. New hotels pierced the skyline. Art Deco met ancient stone, and for the first time, the world began to whisper, "Come, see what Mexico has become." The 1950s and 60s were an age of reinvention. Airplanes from New York, Paris, and Tokyo descended upon a city that now shimmered with promise. The Hotel Maria Isabel opened its glass doors to diplomats and dreamers. Jazz filled the night air, and Chapultepec's grand avenues pulsed with chrome and light. Then came 1968, a single year that changed everything. The Olympic Games arrived, and the eyes of the world turned toward the Valley of Anahuac. Mexico City rose like a phoenix. Sleek stadiums, modern roads, murals reborn in color and steel. It wasn't just a sporting event. It was a declaration. We are here. We are modern. We are Mexico. Cameras captured athletes beneath the burning sun. And for a fleeting moment, the world saw not just a city, but a civilization renewed. Yet progress has its price. Smoke gathered over the skyline like a restless ghost. Earthquakes tested the city's faith. Most painfully in 1985, when concrete fell, but humanity rose higher. In the chaos, strangers became brothers. Tourists who once came to admire beauty, now came to witness resilience. Mexico City, once a cradle of empires, had become a cradle of courage. And still, through the noise and neon, through jazz clubs, taco stands, and midnight prayers, the spirit that never slept found a new dream, to welcome the world not as guests, but as family. There is a sound that defines Mexico City. Not the noise of traffic or the hum of engines, but the rhythm of life itself. Decades after disaster, the city didn't just rebuild, it reinvented itself. A metropolis of over 20 million souls. Yet every corner still whispers its own story. The markets breathe with color, the red of chilies, the gold of mangoes, the laughter of vendors calling Purcell Jovan. Tourists wander through Mercado de Cayocan, tasting elotes, tamales, and sweet pan de muerto. Not as outsiders, but as guests in a living tradition. In La Roma and Condesa, the past meets the future. Art galleries hum inside restored colonial homes. Cafes overflow with language and light. Once, travelers came to see the ruins of empires. Now, they come to feel the rhythm of a city alive, a heartbeat between history and tomorrow. Michelin-starred chefs turn ancient recipes into stories on a plate. Mezcal bars glow like shrines to the night. Murals stretch across skyscrapers, telling tales of identity, equality, and rebirth. From Frida's Casa Azul to the rooftops of Centro Histórico, the city invites the world to witness its soul. Not curated, not polished, but raw, brilliant, alive. Tourists no longer just visit Mexico City. They belong to it, if only for a moment. Because here, every color sings, every meal is a story, and every heart beats to the same song. The eternal pulse of a city that never stopped dancing. Time does not pass in Mexico City. It flows. Like water through stone, like music through memory. Every sunrise over Popocatépetl reflects the same light that once shone on the temples of Tenochtitlán. Yet today, that light dances on glass towers, on digital screens, on the eyes of travelers holding phones where maps once were. This is a city where the ancient and the future walk side by side. In Zocalo Square, drones capture what painters once imagined. At the Museo Sumaya, silver curves reflect the dreams of the 21st century. Young creators film stories for the world. Stories born from the same streets, where Diego once painted and Frida once dreamed. Tourism here is no longer a journey of distance. It's a journey of connection. Visitors arrive to see the sights, but they leave carrying something invisible. The warmth of a people, the pulse of a living history. Sustainability has become the new revolution. Electric buses glide past murals of jaguars and gods. Green rooftops bloom above ancient stones. Mexico City is proving that progress and preservation are not opposites. They are dance partners in the rhythm of tomorrow. From the echoes of the Aztecs to the laughter of the modern streets, the city endures. Vast, vibrant, eternal. And long after the traveler has gone, the city remains, whispering softly, "You were here, you were part of my story, and I will wait for you again." Mexico City, the city that remembers,